AITA for telling my ex I don't care if her daughter cries about being left behind when my son is with me? This whole situation feels like something out of a soap opera, and trust me, I wish it wasn't. I, 27M, never imagined my life would take the turns it has, especially when it comes to family and parenting. But here we are. Let's rewind a few years. I was 20 when I met my ex, Rachel, 26F, and fell hard for her. At the time, I thought she was the one. We were young, ambitious, and had big dreams of building a future together. Things moved quickly, and after about 2 years of dating, Rachel got pregnant. I was over the moon. Becoming a dad was something I'd always dreamed about, even though I knew we were young and had a lot to figure out. When my son, Liam, was born, my whole world changed. I loved him more than I thought was possible. For the first couple of years, I thought we were the perfect little family. Then everything fell apart. The bombshell. When Liam was 2, Rachel revealed she was pregnant again. At first, I was thrilled, our family was growing. But something was off. Rachel seemed distant and nervous. I brushed it off as normal pregnancy stress, but as the months went by, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Eventually, Rachel admitted the truth: she had cheated on me, and the baby might not be mine. I was devastated. It felt like my entire world had been pulled out from under me. All the trust, the plans for the future, the love we'd built, it was like none of it mattered. When her daughter, Sophia, was born, I demanded a DNA test for both kids. I knew Liam was mine in my gut, but I needed confirmation. The test results came back: Liam was indeed my son, but Sophia wasn't. The aftermath. The results hit me like a ton of bricks, but they also gave me clarity. I decided I couldn't stay in the relationship. The betrayal was too much. We weren't married, so there weren't legal complications beyond custody. I filed for 50-50 custody of Liam and Rachel, and I went our separate ways. But Rachel and her family had other ideas. Rachel begged me to raise Sophia as my own. She said the kids were siblings and deserved to grow up together. Her parents and sister chimed in, echoing her pleas. They guilted me, saying things like, "Sophia didn't choose this," and, "How can you just abandon a child who sees you as her father?" It wasn't an easy decision, but I stood firm. I told them I couldn't take responsibility for a child that wasn't mine, especially after Rachel's betrayal. I loved Liam with all my heart, but my relationship with Sophia was based on a lie. A rocky co-parenting relationship. Rachel and I settled into a strained co-parenting arrangement. I focused on being the best dad I could be for Liam, while Rachel continued to raise both kids. She'd occasionally bring up Sophia, asking me to consider what's best for Liam and suggesting that I include her daughter in my life for Liam's sake. I always said no. I tried to keep our interactions civil but firm. I even sent emails outlining my boundaries, just so I'd have a paper trail in case she ever tried to twist my words or accuse me of anything. For a while, things were relatively stable. Liam would come to my place for my custody days, and I made sure he had a loving, supportive environment. I never involved him in the drama with his mom. Rachel's renewed efforts. Recently, Rachel's efforts to get me involved in Sophia's life have ramped up. It started with subtle comments during exchanges, like, "Sophia misses her brother so much when he's gone," and, "It's hard for her to understand why you take Liam but not her." Then came the confrontation. We were at a neutral location for a custody exchange when Rachel started crying. She told me that Sophia cries every time Liam leaves, saying she feels left behind. She said Sophia wants to run up and hug me but knows I wouldn't be okay with it, so she holds back. Rachel begged me to reconsider. She admitted she'd made mistakes but said, "Sophia didn't choose this. She's just a little girl who loves her brother and wants to feel included. Can't you see her as Liam's sister and love her for his sake, if not for mine?" Drawing the line. I told Rachel I didn't care. I wasn't trying to be cruel, but I needed to be clear. I told her I didn't make Sophia, and I wouldn't be responsible for raising her. I said she needed to put her energy into finding Sophia's biological father and leave me alone. Rachel broke down, and I left feeling a mix of guilt and frustration. I knew I'd upset her, but I also knew I wasn't in the wrong. The backlash. Rachel's family didn't take my response well. Her sister DM'd me on social media, accusing me of being heartless. "How can you be a dad and not care about an innocent child?" she wrote. Then Rachel's friend got involved. Her message was even harsher, calling me misogynistic and claiming I'd only act this way because Sophia is a girl. That accusation was laughable. It had nothing to do with Sophia's gender and everything to do with the circumstances of her conception and Rachel's betrayal. I didn't engage with them. I had no interest in justifying my decisions to people who didn't understand what I'd been through. Sophia's perspective. I'll admit, Sophia's situation tugs at my heartstrings sometimes. She's an innocent kid in all this, and it's not her fault how she came into the world. But I also know that I can't be the father figure she needs. I've made my boundaries clear, and I've stuck to them. Including Sophia in my life would only confuse Liam and complicate an already difficult situation. He knows Sophia is his sister, and I've never said a bad word about her or Rachel around him. But my role is to be his dad, not hers. AITA? So, here I am, asking for judgment. Am I the asshole for telling Rachel I don't care about Sophia crying when Liam leaves? For refusing to step into a role that isn't mine? Rachel's family thinks I'm heartless. Her friends think I'm misogynistic. But I believe I'm just trying to protect my own well-being and focus on raising Liam in the best way I can. Parenting is hard enough without the added drama of being guilted into taking responsibility for a child I didn't father. I'm doing my best, but sometimes it feels like I can't win no matter what I do. What do you think? Am I wrong for standing my ground, or is this just a no-win situation? Story 2. My boyfriend of 10 years insists on splitting bills 50-50 despite a huge income gap. Can he really love me and do this? I'm 33F, at a crossroads in my 10-year relationship with my boyfriend. While he makes $115,000 annually, my income is significantly less, at $47,000. Despite this disparity, he insists on splitting our bills evenly. This arrangement has always been a sticking point for me, but recent events have brought it into sharper focus, leaving me questioning how much he values me in our relationship. How we got here. We've been together for a decade, and over that time, I've often accepted compromises for the sake of our relationship. One of the most significant compromises is living in Seattle. He insists on staying here because it offers him access to a lucrative tech job, proximity to his family, and his social circle. On the other hand, I have no family or friends here, my family lives states away, and I haven't had the opportunity to build close friendships because I'm constantly working to make ends meet. Our financial arrangement has been the same since we moved in together years ago. We split bills right down the middle, no matter the income disparity. Rent, utilities, groceries, it's all 50-50, except for a $37 discount per week I get for taking on an extra hour of house cleaning. To be fair, this is the first time he's covered any portion of my bills. When we recently moved into a more expensive rental, he agreed to pay $150 of my share of the rent, but even with that concession, I'm struggling. Living two separate lives. The impact of this arrangement has been profound. Our financial situations are worlds apart, which means we're essentially living two different lifestyles. For example, he spends hundreds of dollars a month on gym memberships, something I can't even fathom budgeting for. Meanwhile, I've been visiting food banks to afford rent. My share is $1,600 a month after his $150 discount, which is an enormous financial burden for someone on my income. I often feel like I'm living beyond my means just to accommodate his preferences. We recently had a conversation about this disparity. I asked him if he would still expect me to split the bills evenly if he were to make $300,000 a year. Without hesitation, he said yes. He explained that he would use the extra money to retire earlier, not to support me. His reasoning? Why should I just give you my money? He asked, justifying it by saying he works harder and has a more stressful job, so he deserves to keep what he earns. While I can understand the logic in theory, after all, he does earn his money, it feels like this mindset doesn't align with the kind of partnership I thought we had. I would never expect him to hand me money, but shouldn't a long-term relationship mean supporting each other in ways that allow us to share a similar quality of life? The breaking point. A recent incident has left me feeling particularly unvalued. We moved into an apartment that neither of us loved, but after just 1 month, he insisted we break the lease and move again. While I agreed the apartment wasn't ideal, I told him I couldn't afford the additional expenses associated with breaking the lease and moving so soon. He said he couldn't stand to stay there any longer, so we had to move. Despite knowing my financial constraints, he's still making me pay half of the costs for breaking the lease and moving into a new place. This situation feels less like a compromise and more like him dictating the terms of our living arrangements without considering the financial strain it puts on me. It's as though my input, or my ability to afford these changes, is irrelevant to him. Am I just a roommate? Lately, I've been questioning whether he even sees me as a true partner. His insistence on splitting bills evenly, regardless of our vastly different incomes, feels more like the arrangement between roommates than a couple. In my mind, a loving partnership should involve a shared approach to finances, especially when there's a significant income disparity. Pooling resources, or at least finding a proportional way to split expenses, would allow us to live a more balanced life and spend more quality time together. It's not about me wanting his money, it's about creating a sense of fairness and mutual support. I've told him that if our roles were reversed and I were the higher earner, I would happily contribute more to ensure we both had a similar standard of living. To me, that's what being in a committed relationship is all about. The emotional impact. What hurts the most is the lack of empathy. His perspective makes me feel like my struggles are my own problem to solve, even though we've been together for a decade. For instance, when I mentioned I was using food banks to make ends meet, he didn't seem concerned. He never offered to help beyond the $150 discount he recently agreed to, and I've noticed he continues to spend money on luxuries while I'm barely getting by. His stance leaves me feeling undervalued and unsupported. I've started to wonder, if he truly loved me, wouldn't he want to ensure that I'm not struggling so much, even if it means making adjustments to how we split finances? Not about feminism. In response to some people who might say, this is what feminists wanted, isn't it? I don't think this has anything to do with feminism. To me, this is about partnership. In a committed relationship where two people plan to be together for life, it makes sense to pool resources or adjust contributions based on income disparities. This approach allows both people to live a similar lifestyle and reduces financial stress, which ultimately benefits the relationship. It's not about one person freeloading off the other, it's about creating balance and fairness. What's next? I've been reflecting a lot on the situation, and I'm starting to feel like I deserve better. I deserve a partner who values me enough to consider how his financial decisions impact our relationship. I haven't brought up the issue again since our last conversation, but I'm not sure how much longer I can keep living like this. It's not just about the money, it's about what the money represents. Right now, it feels like he values his own comfort and financial goals more than our shared future. I'm left wondering, can someone truly love you if they're unwilling to compromise in such a fundamental way? Or am I just holding on to a relationship that isn't as strong as I thought it was? What do you think? Is this a sign that he doesn't value me, or am I expecting too much from him? Story 3. AITA for not spending time with my sister's family because of her husband's views on my trans daughter? This is an incredibly painful situation for me, and I've been wrestling with guilt and uncertainty for months now. My sister, Sarah, has always been my rock. Growing up, we didn't have a father in the picture, and our mom struggled with addiction for most of our childhood. Sarah, 36F, stepped into a parental role for me, despite being just a few years older. She took care of me when no one else could, and when I had my daughter, she was there for me in ways I can't even begin to repay. That's why this situation is breaking my heart. I have a preteen daughter, Emily, 11F, who is a trans girl. Emily came out to me a little over a year ago, and while it was an adjustment, I've done everything I can to support her. She's happier now, more confident, and blossoming into a truly remarkable young woman. She hasn't started puberty blockers yet, but she's already made several changes, wearing dresses, growing out her hair, and working on her voice. Every day, I'm reminded of how strong and brave she is, and I'm determined to give her all the love and acceptance she deserves. Unfortunately, not everyone in our family feels the same way. Tim's views. Sarah is married to Tim, 38M, and while we've always had a civil relationship, I've never been close to him. He's deeply conservative, which was never an issue until Emily transitioned. I've never heard him directly say anything hateful to her face, but I overheard him once talking to Sarah when he thought I wasn't in the room. He said something along the lines of, "Trans people don't exist, and Emily should dress like a boy until she's 18. Hearing that made my stomach drop. I was too shocked to confront him at the time, but it's a moment that stuck with me. I've always wondered if Tim's beliefs were influencing Sarah and their kids, even if he wasn't saying them outright at family events. The hurtful comments. The first real issue happened during a family dinner a few months ago. Sarah had invited Emily and me over for a big get-together, and everything was going well until her son, Jake, 12M, made a cruel comment. Emily had been sitting next to Jake, talking about school, when Jake suddenly said, "You're not a girl. You're a boy because God gave you male parts." Emily froze. She looked completely crushed, and before I could even process what had happened, she excused herself from the table and went to the bathroom. When I followed her, she was in tears, sobbing that she didn't want to be there anymore. We left early, and the entire car ride home, she kept asking, "Why does Jake hate me? Why can't I just be a normal girl? It broke my heart. The next day, I met Sarah for coffee and told her what had happened. She was mortified and incredibly apologetic. She assured me that she had no idea Jake felt that way and promised to have a conversation with him about respect and acceptance. She also said she'd talk to Tim about being more mindful of his words, even if they were said in private. I believed her, and for a while, I thought things would get better. Things escalate. A few weeks later, we attended another family dinner at Sarah's house. This time, I thought we'd moved past the previous incident. Sarah greeted Emily warmly, and Jake seemed polite enough. But during dinner, something else happened that completely blindsided me. As part of their family tradition, we all held hands for grace before the meal. When it came time for Jake to hold Emily's hand, he refused. Not only that, but Emily later told me that Jake whispered, "Gross tranny," under his breath while the prayer was happening. I didn't hear it myself, but Emily was devastated. After dinner, she came to me, crying, and told me what Jake had said. I confronted Sarah, but Jake denied saying anything. Sarah seemed unsure of what to believe. She didn't outright accuse Emily of lying, but she said she didn't think Jake would say something so cruel. I trust my daughter. Emily isn't the type to make something like that up. That was the last time we attended a family gathering at Sarah's house. Protecting Emily. Since that dinner, I've been avoiding family events altogether. It's not that I don't love Sarah, I do, more than words can express, but I can't bring Emily into an environment where she feels unsafe or unloved. Sarah has tried to mend things, but it feels like she's walking on eggshells. She keeps insisting that Jake didn't say what Emily claims he did and that Tim's views don't reflect the rest of the family. But I can't ignore the fact that something toxic is seeping into their home. Whether it's Tim's influence, Jake's own prejudices, or a combination of both, it's not a place where Emily can thrive. The fallout. The decision to stay away hasn't been easy. Sarah has been hurt by my absence, and she's made that clear. She's told me she feels like I'm punishing her for things that aren't her fault. She says she loves Emily and would never allow her to be intentionally harmed in her home. But I don't think Sarah fully understands what it's like to raise a trans child in today's world. Emily faces enough challenges outside of the family, I can't allow her to be hurt within it, too. To make matters worse, Tim has started making passive-aggressive comments on social media, sharing posts about traditional family values and how the world is pandering to delusions. He hasn't tagged me directly, but it's clear the posts are about us. Struggling with guilt. The hardest part of all this is the guilt. Sarah was like a mother to me, and now I feel like I'm driving a wedge between us. She keeps reaching out, asking me to come back to family dinners, and even suggested we do smaller get-togethers without Tim present. I've considered it, but I'm not sure it's enough. Jake's comments hurt Emily deeply, and I don't know if I can trust Sarah to address the issue properly. I don't want to risk another incident, especially when Emily is just starting to feel confident in her identity. At the same time, I don't want to lose Sarah. She's been such a huge part of my life and Emily's life, and the thought of breaking up our family over this is devastating. AITA for exposing my boyfriend's friend after he repeatedly tried to sleep with me? This situation has been eating at me for a while now, and I'm still not sure if I handled it the right way. It's messy, and it's caused a lot of drama in our social circle, but I genuinely felt like I didn't have another choice. Here's the full story. The beginning. Before I started dating my boyfriend, let's call him Ryan, I had a brief encounter with his friend, Jake. We weren't friends or anything, but Jake approached me one evening at a party and asked me out. I wasn't interested, so I politely declined. At the time, I didn't even know Jake and Ryan were friends. A few months later, I started dating Ryan. We hit it off immediately. He was funny, kind, and the kind of guy who made me feel safe and cared for. It wasn't until much later that I found out Jake and Ryan were close friends. When Jake found out I was now in a relationship with Ryan, his behavior toward me shifted. At first, I thought it was just awkwardness because I'd turned him down, but it soon became clear that his intentions were more troubling than that. Jake crosses the line. Jake started flirting with me, but not in a harmless, joking way. His comments were deliberate and uncomfortable, and they became more explicit over time. He would say things like, "I bet Ryan doesn't know how lucky he is," or, "If you ever get bored with him, you know where to find me." I always shut him down, making it clear that I wasn't interested and that his comments were inappropriate. But Jake didn't stop. In fact, he started escalating. He began sending me messages late at night, saying things like, "It doesn't have to mean anything, we can keep it between us," or, "You know we'd have great chemistry." He even joked about how what Ryan doesn't know won't hurt him. I felt sick every time I saw his name pop up on my phone. I blocked him multiple times, but he'd find ways to reach out, through mutual friends, burner accounts, or running into me at social events. The breaking point. The last straw came during a party Ryan and I attended together. Jake cornered me in the kitchen when Ryan wasn't around and straight up propositioned me. He said, "You know we could have something amazing. Ryan doesn't have to know." I was livid. I told him to back off, that I loved Ryan, and that he was crossing serious boundaries. Jake laughed it off, saying I was overreacting and that it was just a bit of fun. That night, I decided enough was enough. Telling Ryan. When we got home, I sat Ryan down and told him everything. I showed him the messages Jake had sent me and explained how uncomfortable and violated I felt. Ryan was furious, not at me, but at Jake. He apologized for not noticing sooner and assured me he'd handle it. I thought that would be the end of it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized Jake's behavior wasn't just disrespectful to me, it was also a massive betrayal of Ryan and, more importantly, of Jake's girlfriend, Anna. Informing Anna. Anna and I weren't close, but we'd met a few times, and she seemed like a genuinely sweet person. I couldn't shake the feeling that she deserved to know what Jake had been doing behind her back. If I were in her position, I'd want someone to tell me. I debated it for days. I knew telling her would cause a massive fallout, but I also couldn't let Jake keep getting away with his behavior. In the end, I decided to show Anna the messages Jake had sent me. We met up for coffee, and I explained everything as gently as I could. Anna was shocked and devastated. She thanked me for telling her, but I could see how heartbroken she was. The fallout. After I told Anna, everything exploded. Anna broke up with Jake immediately, and Ryan cut him off as well. Jake tried to downplay the situation, claiming I'd misinterpreted his intentions, but the messages spoke for themselves. He couldn't deny what he'd done. Jake's behavior quickly became the talk of our social circle. Most people sided with me and Ryan, but a few mutual friends thought I'd gone too far. They argued that I should have kept the situation between Jake and me and that exposing him to Anna was unnecessary. One friend even accused me of ruining Jake's life and said I'd caused more drama than the situation warranted. According to them, Jake was just being a guy and didn't deserve to lose his relationship and his friendship with Ryan over a few inappropriate messages. How I feel now. I'm not going to lie, the backlash has been hard to deal with. While Ryan has been incredibly supportive and reassured me that I did the right thing, the comments from mutual friends have made me second-guess myself. Did I overreact? Should I have just ignored Jake's advances and let it slide? But then I think about how uncomfortable and unsafe Jake made me feel, and I remember why I did what I did. His behavior wasn't harmless, it was predatory. He didn't respect me, Ryan, or Anna, and I don't believe he deserved to walk away without consequences. Why I told Anna. Some people have asked why I felt the need to involve Anna when I could have just told Ryan and left it at that. The answer is simple, Anna deserved to know. Jake wasn't just crossing boundaries with me, he was betraying Anna. If I hadn't told her, he might have continued to disrespect her and their relationship, thinking he could get away with it. By informing her, I gave her the information she needed to make her own decisions about her future with Jake. Moving forward. Jake has since tried to reach out to Ryan and me, but we've both blocked him. Anna and I aren't close, but we've exchanged a few supportive messages since everything happened. She told me she's glad I came forward, even though it was painful for her to hear the truth. As for Ryan and me, our relationship feels stronger than ever. He's made it clear that he values my honesty and will always have my back, no matter how messy things get. AITA? Looking back, I still believe I did the right thing by exposing Jake. But the backlash from some friends has left me wondering if I went too far. Did I overstep by telling Anna? Should I have kept it between Jake and me? Or was I justified in making sure his actions had consequences? What do you think? Am I the asshole for exposing Jake, or did he get exactly what he deserved?